I've worked, for years for this moment. This is work now. This is what I'm earning my money for. This is what I've practiced for. It's about the craft. It's about, are you going home at night and watching, consuming sports news? Are you in the mirror looking at the framing and the lighting and the audio and holding your hairbrush or your aerosol can and pretending you're outside Wembley doing a broadcast? Are you looking back at where you stumbled on your words? Are you looking at your delivery, the quality of your questions? All these things play into being a broadcaster and being a presenter and being an interviewer. You can't just turn up at Sky and Channel 4 and no, you got to do the work.
Today's guest is Jordan Jarrett Bryan, and for context, I'm speaking with someone who is an award-winning journalist and broadcaster. They've covered and broadcasted the Paralympic Games, the Football World Cup. They've interviewed top-level athletes like Usain Bolt and Anthony Joshua. He owns and runs his own successful production company. He's been a DJ for over 15 years, performing at some of the biggest festivals and events in Europe. And so I'm speaking with someone who's incredibly accomplished. And I ask him, I say, what is kind of your superpower? What is the thing that you really take pride in? And he says that his number one talent through it all, the thing that allowed him to achieve all of these things in his career, is his confidence. And when I found out more about his story, and you'll hear it in the episode, Jordan was actually born with a disability, a deformed right foot that meant that the lower part of his right leg had to be amputated when he was a child. And this is someone who says confidence and self-belief, that refused to allow life and the circumstances that they were placed in to define their life. And there's really so much that we can all learn from that. And so with all of that context, the way that we took this episode is really a conversation on how anyone listening can build their confidence. And so without further ado, let's get into this episode with Jordan Jarrett Bryan.
And I found something that someone had written about you on the internet.
Oh,
which is typically not a good place.
It's not true. When they say it's not true, I didn't do it.
So here's what they say. They said, Jordan was born without the fibular bone in his right leg and with a deformed right foot. His leg was amputated and he was fitted with a prosthetic. As a youngster, having a plastic leg was an extremely difficult yet defining experience, but that provided a mental focus and a confidence. Jordan refused to allow the disability to become a barrier in achieving his goals. In fact, he embraced it and even sees that disability as a vital part of his success. And so here's where I want to go, because we had a conversation on the phone last week, and you spoke about how important it is to tap into your abilities, to tap into the things that you're naturally good at. And you said that you see your superpower as confidence. And so in light of what I just read and in the context of your life, I'm curious about those kind of really early formative experiences for you and how those experiences built confidence. How did it build Jordan Jarrett Bryan?
I think the early experiences for me and the building of the confidence, I'm going to just make an assumption here, was from my environment, right? So I think confident people often have people around them that allow them to be confident, enable them to be confident. So to that, I attribute that to my mom, wider family, friends. I always had the confidence to kind of believe that I could do what I wanted to do. And so growing up, my mum always encouraged and embraced my confidence. I wasn't cocky, but I was always someone that felt like I can do that, or I can try that, or at least try that. That's the key. It wasn't I think the arrogance comes in, I can do that. The confidence is, I'm going to try that and I'll try anything. And that's what I think was the starting point for me, believing and having this kind of outer shell of belief. I think it then grew from things like having a disability and having a prosthetic leg, because when you're a young boy or a young girl and you have a disability, you're defined a lot when you're young by what you can do. So if you can, how fast you can run, how high you can jump, you know, how good you can play football, whatever it may be. And if you have a disability that can, and mine doesn't, but can potentially prevent you from doing those things, I could see how it would make someone lose a lot of confidence. So if someone's in a wheelchair, for example, the idea that everyone in school is running around and having races to who's the fastest, but yet you know you can't do that because you're in a chair, could dent somebody's confidence. But even though my prosthetic and my disability didn't ever prevent me from doing any of that, there were times at school where things were said or kids gave me certain looks because of my leg that a different person, I believe, would have crumbled, but I didn't. If anything, it made me even more stronger in my belief that I've got one leg, so what? So what? I can do everything else. I'm intelligent, I'm polite, I'm kind, I'm a good mate. So what? This is not to define me positively or negatively. It's just a part of me. So I think my disability was probably, I think I'm correct in saying, probably the first obvious and overt tool or instrument to empower my confidence, because it made me realize that despite not having two good legs, not only can I still do the things I want to do, no matter what you say about it and how you try to weaponize my leg as like, oh, he's got a plastic leg, that's going to make me want to prove you prove you wrong even more so. So I think my disability definitely was the first thing that enabled me to believe that, so what, I can still run faster than you, I can still jump higher than you, I can still achieve. That was more of a symbol for wider achievement. I mean, the running fast and jumping high thing is not important. It's something that's important when you're young. But that was the thing that kind of enabled me to believe I can do. And I think from there on in, combined with my mum, who told me, you're a smart boy, you're a talented boy, you're good at sports, I think was a good grounding for my early confidence. And then things grew, which we can get to, but I think at the early point, to your question, I think it was a combination of my early environment that my mum created for me, but also how I dealt with having a disability.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I think, especially when we're growing up, and I know that I felt this, I just wanted to be like everyone else. I think when you're a kid, there's a certain sense that like you just want to kind of fit in. You want to be popular. You want to be accepted by the group. And I remember for me growing up, I used to have this anger around the fact that my mum and my dad weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw other kids where their parents were together.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotion that I felt in that moment was anger. And it can be difficult in life to not let these emotions, these experiences from the early part of your journey kind of define your story,
Mm-hmm.
to not let that anger continue on. And so when I listen to you, I think about those moments where a kid in the class makes a snide little comment, or someone skips over you for like an athletic, like something's happening and they're like, oh, he's not going to be able to do it. I don't know what it was, but I'm curious, you actually see it as this built your confidence.
Yeah.
This was the defining moment in a good way. And I'm curious how you made that switch where it wasn't like, oh, I'm so angry about this. It was more so, this is actually empowering me.
I don't know why, because as you said, it could have gone the other way, right? And for many young people, it does. They kind of, oh, this is why I can't do it, because little Johnny at school telling me that I can't run fast because I've got one leg. Therefore, that must be true. I could have gone that way, but I just didn't. I've always been someone that has an inner confidence as well. I've always kind of been someone that like I know what I'm good at. I say to my friends, I think I have a perfect blend of humility and arrogance, right? And what I mean by that is, I'll tell you the things that I'm good at. I've no compunction about telling you I'm the best at that. I'm better than you at that. I'm really good at this. None of that, I know you won't beat me at that. I'm better at that. That's the arrogance. But the humility comes in. I'm also open enough to say, I can't do that. I don't think I'm good at everything. I'm humble enough to recognize the things I'm not good at. I think people that are just overtly arrogant and have too much confidence are the ones that spill into, they think they're good at everything, or they tell you they're good at everything. And I'm very aware. Drawing. I'm awful. I can't draw. Swimming. probably the only sport I can't do, and it's not because of my leg. I'm scared of the water, right? I'm scared of the water, so I just can't swim. What else can't I do? What am I really bad at? Maths. I'm not great at maths. Do you know what I mean? So I'm very, very aware and very open to say the things that I'm the worst at. But I tap into the few things that I know that I'm good at. And I think that comes from an inner belief and a confidence that, yeah, I think confidence, and again, we may get to it, but I think it's been the cornerstone of why I've achieved what I've achieved. But more important than that, why I've become the man that I've become. I think I do a lot of talks in schools and secondary schools and colleges and unis, and I used to go to young offenders units and do talks. And I used to always say to people, after kindness, or probably alongside kindness, confidence is the single most important quality I think a young person in particular can have. Because if you have confidence, you have the ability to at least try everything. And we can talk about the whole, fake it till you make it. And lots of people out there that are talentless because their confidence is high, they get quite far. But I think even with talent, I think if you are confident and that's your starting base, I think a lot of the reason why people don't achieve at school or at college or at uni or in their work is because they haven't got confidence. Not because they're not good enough. They want the confidence to kind of tell themselves, I can do this. And not only can I do this, but I'm good at this. And I think for me, I've always been very, very conscious of the things that I'm good at, great at, rubbish at. But either way, I'll try everything. I'll try it all. And I think that has been a driving force, not only from when I was younger, it's only multiplied as I've got older.
Have there been moments where there's been a void of confidence? So you've been attempting to do something and it's just not happening. And I don't know whether it's like the ego of it or even just people around you are able to do it. It's like you so much want to be able to do that thing, but you just can't. And in that moment, you've started to doubt yourself.
So two things, well, 2.5 to come to mind. The first one would be football. So I love football, it's my favorite sport, but it was very apparent at school. I mean, I was average, and I'm being kind. I'm being generous with average. I wasn't very good at football, and seeing all my friends who were good at football and could caress the ball a particular way or strike the ball. I remember I can't kick the ball. I'm right-footed, but because my prosthetic is my right foot, I can't strike the ball with my laces because my prosthetic is that. So I have to toe pump the ball. So just striking the ball, I'd be jealous and I'd be like, oh, I can't. I have to side foot it or toe punt it. So football is one example of where I just wasn't very good at football. I wasn't bad. I wasn't the worst boy. I wasn't the worst player on the team, but I was never going to go anywhere beyond having a kick about in the playground. So that's one example of something I wanted to be good at, but just knew I just couldn't do. Couldn't do it. And the other one is kind of my business. So for large is not true. For some parts of my journey on my business, my production company I've run, it's hard. It's hard, man. And I've never had any business background. I've never had any experience in production beyond being a presenter. So I've done years of being the journalist and being the presenter and being the broadcaster this side of the mic. But I would never really tap into the role of what Jean Z behind the mic here, the cameras, what he's got to do and what he does is probably more important than what I'm doing. Because without the person behind the mic or behind the listening on sound, this doesn't happen. So having a production company now, I've had to very quickly learn about that. And at times I died myself. We got productions wrong. We messed up certain things. I lost files, transferring things at times, and shows and podcasts went missing because I didn't transfer it in the right way or I corrupted the file. So there were times during my process of running my company that I was a bit like, am I good at this? I want to be good at this. I enjoy doing this, but actually, am I good at this? And more to the point, not only am I good at this, can I make money from this? Because it's a business, right? It's not like it's a hobby. If I'm not good at this, I'm going to lose money. Therefore, is this worth it? So those are the two examples that spring to mind of times where, in the football one, it was clear I was going nowhere with football. I wasn't very good. But the business, there's definitely been periods, and there were periods, and I've kind of come to the other end of that now because, again, my confidence, to use that word again, comes in knowing I can't operate a camera. But you know what? I don't need to. I'll employ someone that is passionate about cameras, does know what they're doing with cameras, and I'm happy to be the facilitator that brings the production together, but I don't have to be the person that knows about audio and sound, do you know what I mean? So I've come through that period whereby if I did anything, and I did have periods of lack of confidence in what I was doing as a production company owner, I came through that, and I tapped into, okay, I'm not good at that. Stop forcing it, but I'm good at this, and operating in that way.
You know what's interesting? So, I've been doing this podcast for 2 years, but I left my job to do it full time about a year ago. And I remember that first, I would say 9 to 10 months after I left my job and I'm doing this full time, which seemed like the dream. It was everything that I wanted to do. I remember things being so difficult, and difficult to the point where even routine tasks, or what felt like they should be routine tasks, were difficult. Sales calls when I was doing the agency, reaching out to people, getting no responses, podcast episodes getting no traction, difficulty with guests. Every step of the process felt so hard. And exactly in the way that you described, you have these quiet moments where like you start questioning, like, is this for me? Like, is this part of my story? And I remember one of the things, because at the time I was 25, and I remember one of the things that I kept thinking was like, did I go too early? Like, did I make the decision to leave my job and go all in on this and think I'm this entrepreneur too early? And I think it's so interesting because when you have those quiet moments where you start questioning yourself, your mind goes somewhere. There's a certain experience. There's a certain almost foundation that you go back to. That means that when you wake up the next day, you keep going at it. And so I'm curious, when you reflect on your story, especially with the production company, with the business, and you were having those tough moments, you were truly in the trenches. Where was it? What was the experience? What was the moment that your mind went to where it's like, nah, I'm going to turn up again. Like, I'm going to do this again.
Okay, quick break. I think something that's so important to me with this show is that I want to do things differently. And here's what I mean. I've listened to so many podcasts where the experience and the conversation is interrupted by sponsors that, as the audience, I don't care about. And so something that was really important to me is that when we do bring on sponsors and partners, they will be the correct partners that are advertising a product that my audience cares about. But in order to do that, I need your help. So linked in the description below is a 5-question survey. You can complete it in 90 seconds or less. And this is going to give us all of the information so that we can get sponsors that actually bring you value. And here's the deal that I'm going to make with you right now. If you answer that survey and you give us this information in just a second of your time, we're going to make everything about this show better. We're going to scale the guests. We're going to scale the production. Everything that goes into making this an amazing experience for you. So, you answer the survey, we're going to take this to an even higher level. We're going to keep offering you more and more value. And so go to the link in the description. Help me help you. Now back to the show.
I remembered why I was doing it. I remembered why I started this. And that's kind of one of my mantras, maybe not the right word, but that's one of the things that I tell people or tell myself when things get hard. When you're doing something and it's looking like this isn't working, this is just not. And it could be anything. You could be trying to be a budding singer. You could be an athlete. You could be wanting to be a doctor. You could be wanting to be a camera operator, whatever it may be. In the times when you've had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad project, whatever it may be, I always say, okay, remember why you're doing this. And if you ask yourself, okay, why am I doing this again? Why did I start this? And the answer is for money. Or the answer is, I don't know, I just kind of got into this. That's maybe a sign to step away. There's nothing wrong with stepping away and tried that, didn't work, on to the next one. But for me, I do this because I enjoy telling stories, right? That's what we're all doing in this room, telling stories. Whether you're a camera op, whether you're a sound technician, whether you're a journalist, we're communicating stories. Whether it's through comedy, whether it's sports chat, whether it's fashion, whether it's popular culture, whatever the subject may be, we're telling stories. I like telling stories, be it in written form or in a debate form, on a show. So my thing was I enjoy telling interesting stories. And that's why I started this. And I started this also because I work in an industry where until recently, this was rare. Black man interviewing black man with a black man behind the camera was rare. In fact, it wasn't rare. It didn't happen. And so having worked in this industry now, I've been a journalist since I was 13, 14. And I've been in broadcast production and journalism for 15 years. I very rarely was in a room or in a shoot or doing a live for Channel 4 News or wherever it may be and saw anyone behind the camera that wasn't middle-aged and white and male. I didn't see any women. I didn't see any black people. No one with a disability. It was the same group of people I was seeing. And I just thought, I want to set up a production company that not only tells the stories that I think are interesting to me and people like me, I want to do it with a company of people that are diverse. I want to do it with, first of all, talented people, but this idea that talent stops with middle-aged white men, no. Because I looked around me and I was like, well, I know women that can operate cameras. I know this person with disability that's very good on audio. I know this person who's from a working class background who's very good at researching, whatever it may be. Why can that not be the production company rather than what I am seeing right now, which is just all men, and any women you do see are white women? So that was tapping back into the why I started this. So the productions that have gone wrong, haven't gone well, I remind myself and I ask myself, why am I doing this again? Why did I start this again? Okay, that's why. Cool. Life, innit? That didn't work out. That didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? Learn lessons. It's important to just not walk away from failings. Learn the lessons from the failings. And we keep it moving. So the time it's always going to be hard. And my business is always, there's ups and downs. But I enjoy people I work with. You know, I was talking before we started recording, life's too short. You spend too much of your adult life working to do a job you don't like. So you might as well do a job that you enjoy. Now, there's a bit of privilege attached to that. I appreciate. Some people can't choose what they want to do. Some people have got 2 kids to feed and a mortgage to pay for. So they have to work in Tesco's or supermarket. They have to work in a call center. Cool. I understand that. You got to pay rent. You got to make money. Fortunately for me, I'm not in that situation. I can afford to choose who I work with and who I work for if I want to work for anybody at all. And so I decided that I want to do that. So it was tapping into remembering why I started doing what I'm doing and best thing I ever did.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned we only have one life. And I read this quote last week, actually, that really put it into perspective in such a great way. It's by Naval Ravikant, who's like a successful entrepreneur, now almost like a philosopher now at this point. And he goes, we have 2 lives. And the second one begins when we realize we only have one. And I it was so simple, but it's like, he put it so well.
Because you're liberated then. Once you realize, damn, like, it's only one life. I'm 40, I turned 40 a few months ago. And this idea that 40, when I was young, 40 felt like it was old. Like 40 years old, like you've only got a few years left and you're done out here, you know what I mean? 40's not old. But I don't tap into ages too much. I call myself, I'm ageless. That's what I say, I'm ageless.
Timeless.
Yeah, man, we don't do numbers. But the facts are, I've been on Earth 40 years. So I'm 40. And it's like, you know what? I want to just live my life and just have fun. And things don't work out. Some things fail. Some things lose money. Some things don't work the way I want them to work. But I'm going to just try things and have fun. And especially at a time without getting too morbid. In the last 2 or 3 years, I just hear about too many people that are younger than me that just randomly pass away. And I'm like, yo, what happened to my man? Oh, I don't know. He went into hospital. He had a headache and just didn't come out. Oh, what happened to my girl? Oh, she had something with her heart and they couldn't work. 35, 36, 31, 28. Whatever. These are young people. So I'm not going to be the kind of person, I said to myself this years ago, I will not be the person that loses somebody close to me and then do the whole, right, now I'm going to live my life. Now I'm going to live. What are you waiting for? Why are you waiting for someone to die before you start to live? No, not me. So I've always lived my life by, I'm a risk taker. And lots of risks don't work out. There's lots of L's on my CV, but that's okay. That is okay. I just think you got one life, and I agree with that, the minute you realize you've only got one life, you start living differently. You're like, you know what, cha. I'm trying to lose a bit of weight, an example. I've got a little bit bigger over the last few years. I know, everyone that knows me knows I've got to put on a bit of weight over the last few years. But whilst I'm trying to address that because of my health and I want to live longer and I want to be fit and supple and all them things, I'm not going to be the kind of person that stars myself of the things that I like, even if it's a little bit unhealthy for me, because live your life, man. If you want to have that extra sticky toffee pudding, if you want to have that extra, chocolate bar or whatever it may be, within reason, live your life, man. I don't drink, but if you want to have that extra pint, you want to have whatever it may be, live your life, man. We work too hard in our jobs that we do. It's hard out here. So the times when you can have a little bit of pleasure, don't hold back from grabbing it.
You know what? As I listen to you, I think one of the things that really resonates and is inspiring is that there's an audacity to your story. And here's what I mean when I say that. So your right leg, you have this prosthetic, and there's an audacity to someone that grows up like that, then going and captaining the Team GB junior basketball wheelchair team. There's an audacity to then having a career 15 years as a DJ and promoting and spinning at some of the biggest events and festivals in Europe. There's an audacity to being an award-winning journalist and covering the Paralympics and the 2018 World Cup and having interviews with Anthony Joshua, Usain Bolt. There's an audacity to just believing that you can do that. And the reason why I say that, I've spoken to so many people that at an early point in their life, it's almost as if they feel like the story was already written. Like, my parents weren't together. My family, we grew up, in these poor conditions. My area wasn't good. My mom wasn't at home. There's so many reasons, and it feels like life is happening to them. And so I think the inspiration of your story, it feels like you're happening to life, like you're on the front foot. And so I'm curious, if you were to give, and we just had to get practical with it, and for that person that feels like life is happening to them, I feel like step one is always important. Step one is important because then you can start to generate momentum. Then you can start to get on the right track. And once the momentum comes, you can start to do things you never dreamt were possible. So I'm curious, for the person that feels like they're in that cycle where things are just happening to them, they're always at the effect of things, never at the cause. How can they just start to reverse that momentum, just start step one on that positive footing?
I think the first thing is to stop. So just like trying to, what have I got to do? I've got to do something. Just stop. That's the first thing. Just stop and just take some time to just be still. Not only physically, but mentally as well. Just stop. And then I think once you've kind of embraced that sense of stillness, I think it's then about asking yourself some questions. So it's about, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? What value can I offer the world? That's a key one. I think if everyone's not trying to add value, everyone's trying to take. But I'm on a vibe, and I've got to shout out my good friend, one of my best friends, my brother, Ezekiel Taiwo, said this to me years ago. He said, he works with me as well. And he was like, what we need to be doing is adding value. What value are we adding in the programming that we put out, in the shows we do? And also just forget professionally, just personally. So it's also, what value can I add to the world today? And that's the kind of mindset for every day. Not even just when I meet you, it's just when I wake up in the morning and I leave my house, adding value can just be helping an old woman down the stairs on the tube. Adding value can be, the other day I told this sister, she was on the bus, 3 rows ahead of me. She had a beautiful headscarf on, or like a head wrap. She had her head her hair in locks. She was very, very attractive. And I didn't want to do it before I got off the bus. I didn't want to look like a creep. So as I was getting off the bus, I said to her, excuse me. And she turned and said, oh yeah, what's up? And I said, I just wanted to tell you, I think your makeup, and not like your makeup on your face, but your makeup, you look really, really dope today. You look amazing. Have a good evening. Walked off the bus and went about my business. I didn't want anything from her. I didn't want to respond. I just wanted to let her know, I thought you looked dope. I've got a girlfriend. So I wasn't trying to like, move to nothing like that. But that for me was adding value. Hopefully she will get off the bus and think, oh, cool. Now, my opinion of her may not mean anything. She might think, I don't care what you think of me. Cool. But that's me trying to add value to the world and just trying to empower someone to know that you look dope. So I think the questions you have to ask yourself are, what makes me happy? What is it that I want to do? And that taps into your point about not letting life control you. You control life. And how can I add value to the world? And then once you've answered those 3 questions, I think the answer then how to move on to that first and then second step will become quite evident. It might take a while. It might not come straight away. It might take a while to work out, what is it that I want to do? Because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people generally don't know what they want to do, and that's fine. Don't rush it. There's no rush. You'll work it out. It will come to you. You'll work out what it is that you're good at. You'll work out what it is that makes you happy. You'll work out what it is that makes you feel good. And once you've worked that out, it then becomes very easy to then, okay, now I know what makes me feel good. Now I know how I can add value. And now I know what it is that I want to do rather than what I need to do or have to do. You will then find it very easy to get that momentum to then make it happen. And then it's about being a little bit selfish, being determined, being focused, and putting yourself in the right circles. I think if you put yourself in the right circles, once you have that right mindset, you will fly. You can have answer those questions, but still be in the bad circles or with the wrong people. You'll only go so far. Once you've done the work in recognizing what it is that your path is, now I need to separate myself from you guys because you don't do it for me. This is the circle I need to be in. Or it might be I need to be in no circles. I need to be on my own for 6 months and just do my thing, get my momentum going, whatever it may be. So my advice would be to stop first of all, and then ask yourself those 3 questions. And then once you've asked those 3 questions, don't rush it. Once you've asked yourself those 3 questions, I think the answers then will enable you to make those moves pretty quickly.
Yeah, you said something interesting. You said once you've done the work to figure out the path that you're meant to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting the way that you worded it. Once you have done the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so much when it comes to like, what am I meant to work on? What am I meant to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing where I add value? And I've definitely had this, and I think other people have this. You end up just analyzing and thinking. There's no actual work that's taken place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious for you to add more detail to that statement. Like, what is the work? Like, what is the process of how someone gets to that clarity in their mind of like, oh, okay, this is my lane. This is where I'm meant to be.
So I think that a lot of us, most of us, maybe all of us have, especially in the West, have been conditioned to a degree where we have certain expectations, certain thoughts, certain desires, certain ambitions placed upon us. This idea of what we should be. You should, if you're a man, you should be this, and you got to do this, and then you do that, and you get married and have kids and have pension, and you die, and you think like this, and this is what men do. If you're a woman, you do this, and you do that. I think part of doing the work is extrapolating all of that and undoing all the things that you think are what you're meant to be doing and what you think are the right things, but actually question it. Why do I think like that? Why do I think it's right to do this? Why do I think it's right to do that? And who says that? Who says that's right? I think we just do things on autopilot because of how we've been brought up, right? And so I think part of doing the work is, the first stage is unpacking and sometimes dropping off a lot of the stuff that we've been told we're meant to be doing and how we're meant to be living. And some of that stuff you should keep. Some of it I think you should get rid of. Once you've then, doing the work then is once you've then freed yourself from a lot of the kind of mentality of what you've been told you should do, it's then about being very selective about what it is that you're now going to do and how you're going to think. And mine and your values, for example, in regards to marriage, may be very different. Mine and your values regarding parenthood could be very, very different. Mine and your values on how to run a business successfully, ethically, could be very, very different. But that's okay. I do my thing and have my process my way, which works for me, but that might not work for you. So it's okay that we might be on the same journey, but or going to the same destination, sorry, but taking two different journeys. So doing the work is getting rid of all the stuff that actually isn't helpful and arming yourself with things that are helpful. And how do you come across that? For me, it's about experiences. For me, it's about having some honest conversations with yourself and going back to, as I mentioned, what is it? Forget what makes him happy. What makes me happy? What do I like? You know, what kind of man do I want to be? What's important to me? You know, not eating animals might be important to you. That's not that important to me. But what's important to me is talking up for women who are oppressed. For the next guy, it might be the whole women oppressed thing. Yeah, it's not cool. But what's important to me is, I don't know, the planet. So therefore, I don't drive a car. I ride a bike. That's what's important. So it's like what's important to you, and then tapping into that, and then arming yourself with the tools that enable you to step strong every single day, and you live by the values and beliefs that you don't compromise on. Those are your values and beliefs that make up you as a person, and you take it into your workplace, into your family household, into your friendship circles. That's just you. But to your point again about doing the work, it all starts with, I think, getting rid of things that we've been told we're supposed to do or how we're meant to live that often aren't the case.
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's one thing that I actually want to add, because this seat that I sit in is a unique one. We're about to interview like our 100th guest. We've nearly done 100 episodes.
Dope.
Every single guest that we've got on has built something phenomenal. By most objective measures, they're incredibly successful. And one of the things that I've seen in common, and I also see it in my own story, is this phase, this period of deep experimentation. So now when you look at them, everything seems polished and sorted out, and it seems so certain, the thing that they're good at, where they uniquely add value. What is often missed is this period of experimentation where they were trying different things and they were failing repeatedly, but they weren't failures, because with each experience, they were figuring something out. They were getting pieces of information. And so even when you speak about this reflection process of asking yourself, do I really enjoy this thing? Is this really for me? Or was it just something that I've been conditioned to think and my environment has pushed it, but I don't truly believe it? Is you need the experiences as the foundation to that. And just to make it really just so clear for people, even with this podcast, like you see this podcast now and it looks more polished than it did in the beginning. In terms of my journey in business and stuff, it didn't even start with this. It started with trying to make t-shirts at university and failing horribly and never launching. And then restarting another t-shirt business, and then that didn't work. It started with trying to do tweets on Twitter and quitting after 3 months because I didn't love writing. And so there were these experiences, and they look like failures, but each experience taught me something which then added up to the ultimate win. And I just think having that action first mindset, there's too much thinking, there's too much going on in here and not enough in the real world. I agree, and I not only agree, I've been that, and part of a lot of my, again, shout out my friend Ezekiel and my girlfriend often say your biggest problem is that you're too proactive, in that you kind of just, if I have an idea, bang, let's go. I want to do it. And this new phrase that I've come across recently, which I really love, is fail fast, right? So if you start up a business or you start up whatever you're going to do, best thing you can do is fail fast, i.e. make all your mistakes early, experiment with everything and work out quickly what doesn't work. Because the quicker you work out what doesn't work, the faster you'll get to working out the formula for what does work. And now, it's been a year of lots of L's, but now we know, look at podcast, for example. Now we know who our audience are, where they are, what they want to hear from me, how long they want to hear it from. And that's how I'm going to format my podcast. So now I know what works.
It was a lot of flop podcasts in the last year, but we now know what works. And we worked that out because we failed fast. So that's kind of my mentality. But equally, sometimes I dive into things a bit too quickly. Sometimes the thinking and the kind of planning and the whoa, Jordan, it's a good idea. Let's just talk about this. How are we going to do? What's the strategy here? And I'm like, no, get the cameras going, get the mics up. I want to do it. It's like, whoa, just calm down. So I totally, what you said resonated with me because I'm that kind of bull in a china shop. If I have an idea, I'll just go and do it. But there's definitely something to be said for me personally, whereby sometimes just we're going to do it. Let's just plan it a bit better first before we just do it, sort of thing. So yeah, I hear it.
Yeah. You know, I love this conversation because it's like we're building a framework for confidence. And so, and the power of confidence, and you articulated it, is a lot of the times these things that you believe and you have like the motivation to act on, they start to appear in your reality.
Yeah.
So the confidence creates these outcomes. So I guess step one on almost like if we're building the framework, step one is really experimenting, trying different things, and then reflecting on those so that you can find the things that you enjoy, number one, and then the unique areas where you add value. Let's take it that step one is complete.
Mm-hmm.
Step two, and I think you're such a unique person to speak to on this because you've had so many different careers.
Mm-hmm.
You almost had like 4 careers.
Mm-hmm.
And you've reached high levels in each one.
Yeah.
And so once I have the clarity that, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is, uniquely where I add value. What's that process of how Jordan Jarrett Bryan goes from a novice journalist to covering the World Cup?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know, someone who's just learning how to DJ to DJing at some of the biggest events? Mm-hmm. Or someone who's just doing their first interview to interviewing Anthony Joshua. What is that pathway to actually getting good at something?
This is easy. So, and this was applicable, for my DJing career, my career in journalism and basketball, So just go to the end and work backwards. So what I mean is work out what is the dream scenario for the job you want to do. So if we take my career, for example, journalism, what is the dream job? What's the perfect job that Jordan Jarrett Bryan wants to be doing? Okay, so my dream job is covering the biggest sporting tournaments and interviewing the biggest athletes on the planet. Okay, that's the end goal, right? That's the end goal. Okay, cool. So how do I get there? So you work backwards. So if I want to be interviewing Usain Bolt in the mix zone straight after he's run his 100-meter final race at the Olympics, broken the record, how do I get who's that broadcaster? Okay, it's the BBC. All right, cool. How do I get to the BBC? Okay, so I need to send the CV in, a show reel in. Do I know anybody at the BBC? Cool. Okay, I know Sally at the BBC, a friend of mine that I was at college with. She's now an AP there. I can do a show reel. Sally, can you get my show reel to the editor of sport at BBC, please? He may or she may not respond. They may, whatever it may be. How do I get to making a show reel? Okay, I got a brethren, John C. He's a videographer. He can film stuff. He can film a little show reel for me. Cool. Let's do a show reel. Send it out to a few people at the BBC, and let's find out who the relevant people at the BBC are. It's not just one person. There's one head, but that head will have. Cool. I'm going to send all those people a link to my show reel. Cool. It's not a lot on the show reel. It's not a lot, but it's something to show them. All right, cool. Work backwards again. To have something to go on the show reel, I've got to demonstrate that I can present, I can broadcast, I can ask questions. So it might be like, right, 2 brethren of mine, we're gonna start a podcast. Start a podcast about athletics. Okay, right. So we're gonna talk, the 3 of us in this room, about athletics. Half an hour every single week. What's happening? Who's winning races? Whatever it may be. 6 months of that, you've now got 50 podcasts, for example. Okay, cool. So I've got a bank of podcasts that I can now put on my show reel, that I can now give to Sally, who can now give to her boss, that might consider me to be part of the Olympics coverage in 4 years' time. Then I might get to meet Usain Bolt. Cool. We're still going backwards now. The step before the podcast is, what is my passion? So my passion is athletics. It's not, but I'm just making an example up here. I love running 100 meters, distance. I love it all. And then you can see now how the steps are put in place. So now I know what the end goal is, and I've worked my way back. It's now just about, okay, so now I've mapped out the route. I've now just got to implement it. So for me, once you've done the work in recognizing you've done got your mental and your mentality correct, it's now about what are the steps to get to the end goal. And the way my brain works is, some people it's 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. For me, it was step 10 and then work back. So then I can visualize what I need to do to get to step 10. And step 10 is the end goal, which is interviewing Usain Bolt on the start line. Same as in basketball. I want to be playing in the World Cup, or I want to be playing in the NBA Championship Finals. Okay, cool. How do I get to that team? I need to practice. I need to get involved in people that can get me a trial, whatever it may be. Whatever your interest is, what's the end goal? And then work backwards. And then write it down. Write it down, put it on your wall at home, in your kitchen, on your fridge, so you stay focused. So you hold yourself accountable. These are the 10 steps. Have you done step 2 yet? No. Okay. But then you can't get step 3 or 4. So it's, what are the steps? Be disciplined, be focused, and be good at executing all those steps. And it doesn't mean you'll get step 10, but at least you've got a good chance of getting step 10. At least you've said to yourself, I can't do any more. I've done the best I can. Lots of people want to get step 10 and do minimal. Do the bare minimum. It's like, well, you haven't even done the bare. You've got to give it all before you can get to the end goal. So that's my process in terms of achieving after you've got your mentality right.
Yeah. You know what, actually, I think that's so good. Because you really break it down into achievable outcomes.
Yeah.
And you know what, I know you'll get this analogy because you have the interest in sports. It's funny sometimes when you watch athletes at the elite level, people that have been training and have been the best at what they do from when they're children, they get to the elite level, whether that's the Champions League final, whether that's the Super Bowl if you're watching the NFL, whether that's the NBA finals if you're watching the NBA. And it's just so interesting that you see this with athletes. It's almost like a deer in the headlights sometimes. It's like they get caught up in the lights. It finally dawns on them that they're, oh, that's ESPN and that's ABC and that's all the cameras here and that's Michael Jordan in the crowd and that's Jay-Z, and they start to, everything that they've been dreaming about is coming to fruition and they freeze up. They can't do it anymore. They can't perform in the way that they have. And I find that the athletes that do perform, and it's funny actually, there's this quote from Kobe Bryant that I love. And they ask him, they say, you've hit so many game winners. You've been ice cold in so many high pressure, high profile moments. How do you do it? And he goes, the confidence comes from preparation. When the game is on the line, I am not asking myself to do something that I haven't done thousands of times before.
Yep.
So if it looks like I'm ice cold or like I'm not nervous, it's because I've done it thousands of times before. So what is one more time?
Exactly. And then you factor in, people will say, yeah, but there's not a crowd there. There's not pressure of it being the winning basket. But that's what practice does. Practice, as best as it can, gets you ready for that one moment. You shoot a million free throw shots in practice for that 1 minute, that one game where that one free throw wins you the NBA title. And to the quote, for me, why am I going to panic? I'm not going to panic because I've done this a million times before. Now it's not about panicking. Now it's not about remembering the technique. Now it's about executing. Now it's about, I've worked, for years for this moment. So now let's go. Now is work time. The last 3 or 4 quarters of the game was the warm up. This last second of the game with the free throw, this is work now. This is what I'm earning my money for. This is what I've practiced for. This is what I've built up for. So no, I'm not going to panic. If I miss, but I'm not going to panic. There's no panicking happening here. So yeah, I totally, doing the work is really, really important. Not only mentally, but physically, and showing up, and another craft. If I keep using, camera operators because it's the area that I work in, but let's use singing. If singing's your thing, you got to practice every night. I'll give you my career. People always ask me, how do I become a broadcaster? I get emails from lots of people and LinkedIn DMs from students studying journalism or broadcasting. Oh, I see you on AFTV. I see you on Channel 4. I see you on TalkSport. I would love to do your job. Cool. I welcome more people because the more competition there is, the better the industry gets. And therefore, the better it means that I have to get. But I say to the people, you are living in, especially young people, you are living in the best age of media. No, it's hard. I'm like, listen, you think when I was your age, there was Twitter, there was YouTube, there was Instagram. I could slide in the DMs of the Channel 4 News sports correspondent. You mad? I had to write a letter, or I had to go to Sky Sports, and I did this many times. I had to go to Sky Sports, and anyone knows where Sky is in London, the UK, will know it is far West London. It's a mission. I had to go there, go to reception, and demand to speak to a program editor or the editor of Sky Sports News. When I was 17, 18 years old. And I had to wait 2 hours in the lobby until he came down. 2 hours. I didn't get a meeting, but the mindset was, I'm going to do what I've got to do. Whereas now you've just got to send an email and you get a reply. I'll reply to anybody and everybody. So I'm like, you've got it easy now. You know why? Because there's not just 4 channels. There's 4 channels plus cable. And you know what as well? There's a thing called the internet. There's this new thing called the internet. And there's a new website called youtube.com, which means that you can now be your own broadcaster. You can set up your own fan channel. You can set up your own vlog webpage, whatever you want to do. You haven't got to wait for the BBC or Channel 4 or other networks. You can be your own network, your own broadcaster, as it's happening. So when broadcasters, young broadcasters say to me, I want to do your job, I'm like, do it. What are you waiting for? I had to wait. I had to be commissioned to do a job. You commission yourself. Commission yourself. So yeah, it's about the practice. It's about the craft. It's about, are you going home at night and watching and consuming sports news? Are you in the mirror looking at the framing and the lighting and the audio and holding your hairbrush or your aerosol can and pretending you're outside Wembley doing a broadcast? Are you looking back at where you stumbled on your words? Are you looking at your attire? Are you looking at your posture? Are you looking at your delivery, the quality of your questions? All these things play into being a broadcaster and being a presenter and being an interviewer. You can't just turn up at Sky and Channel 4 and no, you got to do the work. You've got to do the work. So I think now those young people are able to do the work, but there's also an outlet for them to have their work seen in a way that 15 years ago, no way. If the BBC weren't calling you, you weren't going to get seen. Now YouTube, everyone's on YouTube now. And I'm here for it because it now democratizes talent. It now means that if your show is rubbish, invariably, and the way it should work is that you shouldn't get a bring in. But if your show is popular and you've tapped into a community and an audience, you can bang without the BBC, without Channel 4, without TalkSport, without AFT. Do what you want. And I love that.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, there was a period earlier this year where things were not working in the way that they are now. And I remember having numerous moments where I would just get so frustrated. And what would add to the frustration is that you would also, because you can start to get like jealous and like start comparing yourself to others when things aren't working.
Totally.
You see someone else that it's working and you're like, I'm better than him.
Really good point.
How have I not got that?
Yeah.
And I would complain about these things, not much, but at times to my mum. And I remember she said to me, she looks at me, she goes, there is someone doing more with less. There is someone doing more with less.
She's right.
And I just think it's such a humbling thing to always come back to whenever you kind of get into that almost like victim mentality of, all of this is happening to me. There is someone that has less resources at their disposal than you do right now who has made more of it.
There you go. So why can't you? I totally agree. And I did the same thing for years. I'd be like, rah, why is my man presenting that show? Or rah, why is my girl doing that thing, got that gig? She's whack. Or he's rubbish. But two things with that. One, the employer of that gig, whatever it may be, likes that person. So, you know, that's their right. But secondly, don't worry about that. That's not your lane. That wasn't for you. And if it was for you, suck it up and move on. Enough times I'd be like, how comes my man's podcast blowing up? The production's awful. Look at the guests they got on there chatting rubbish and all that. And you get vexed. But now, as I've grown up, I'm like, you know what? I love to everybody. Your program isn't for me, your program, I won't be watching or subscribing. But you know what? All best to you. Good luck. Because your hustle is a hustle. We're all hustling out here. You've got an audience that watch your program. The fact that you've got 10 million followers and I've got 75 followers over here, it's what it is. But I can't compare myself to you because I'm not you, you're not me. What you're doing is working for you, and I've got to find a way to make what I'm doing work for me. But the whole jealousy, looking side eye at people thing, I don't do it anymore. I just wish everybody the best. Good luck to your podcast. I don't have to watch or listen to your podcast. But that doesn't mean that I don't want you to fail. I don't want you to bomb. If you're, do your thing. Do your thing, man.
You know what's so detrimental about like the hating or the jealousy? I realized this when I was doing it. Is it's halting your progress.
Of course it is.
Because now you're not learning from the person.
Totally.
There's something that they're doing which is resonating. There's something that they're doing well.
That you're not.
That you're not.
Yeah.
And because you're hating, you can't appreciate it.
You can't see it.
You can't acknowledge it.
You can't see it. And I think that's such a good point. I think you have to look at, not forget the content. The content might be some foolishness on their show. But actually, what can you take from it? Is it their titles? Is it their thumbnail? Is it how they start their edits? Is it how the length of their show? What is it that's working? Something's clearly working for their show beyond the nonsense that I can take from that and apply to my work.
Here's where I want to go. I want to talk about like the culmination of all of this, because we spoke about like finding your lane. We spoke about preparation and what elite preparation looks like, and being truly dedicated to your craft, and quiet moments in front of the mirror, rehearsing, practicing, preparing for that one moment when the lights are on and it's go time and it's action. And so hearing your story, and even the formative, the early moments of your story, being in school and little comments here and there, feeling like, you have this disability at an early age. I'm curious, when you reflect on your story so far, what is the culmination of all of that? What was the moment where it felt like the lights were on, where it felt like everything that happened prior was preparation for this moment? What is that moment?
That moment was the 2012 Paralympic Games, where I was a presenter reporter. That was the London Games. And I remember it vividly. I remember we were in the wheelchair basketball, and we had a little mini studio that was in a corner of the arena in the stands. And like this, there was a setup there, lights were on. I had a different guests with me that we would analyze the game that we just watched. But it was my first presenting of live TV. It was crazy. And it's funny you mentioned the lights, because that's when it becomes real. Like when you're getting mic'd up and everything, you're like, I'm ready. But when the lights come on, it's like, okay, this is real. This is real. And you got 4 cameramen behind the cameras looking at you. You got the crowd of people that are kind of like watching the game, but watching you as well. You got your script here, and it's like, okay, I'm presenting a show on Channel 4. This is real now. And I smashed it. And I enjoyed it and I embraced it. Was it perfect? I'll probably watch back on it now and look and be like, cringe a little bit at certain things, but that's fine. That was nearly 13 years ago. So, we get better in it, we improve. But I enjoyed it, and it was the first moment that I kind of thought, I'm a broadcaster. I'm actually a broadcaster now. I've done a live broadcast at a Paralympic Games in my home city. This is dope. So that was when. And another moment, I'll fast forward to a few years ago when England got to the Euro final. They lost to Italy, and again that was in London too. And that was a key moment, because I knew that I was broadcasting, doing the news on an evening ahead of the kickoff, ahead of a moment that would be significant in British sporting history. England were in their first European Championships and their first major trophy since '66. I knew that from a broadcasting point of view, this is a big moment. And, you know, I'm Channel 4 News' sports correspondent. This is dope. I get to deliver that story, hopefully, the next day if they win, that England are European champions. So that was another day where I thought, I've arrived. You know what I mean? Channel 4, national news program, multi-award winning program, respected globally, have trusted me to be their sports correspondent and deliver those live moments. So those are the two moments I would say where, as the kids say, you know, S got real. I won't curse on your pod, but you know, it got real. It got real.
Yeah, no, that's so cool to hear. You know, here's where I want to end, because it's so cool to hear about that moment, the culmination. And I think, and I've had to reflect on this even myself, is that sometimes we can be afraid of our own potential. And here's what I mean when I say that. We spend so much time in pursuit. We spend so much time chasing this thing, chasing this outcome. And then you start to get in the vicinity of it. It starts to become real. And even what you were saying, it's like shit got real, like the lights came on. And I feel like there's people that are actively self-sabotaging. There's people that are actively running away from their own potential because they're afraid of the fact that once you do it once, you've proven to yourself you can do it once, and then it should be consistent. That can be scary. And so I'm just curious. I'm curious for that person who's almost like afraid of their potential. They're like dilly-dallying. They're not really truly going in on the thing yet. They see the lane, but they haven't fully committed to it. I'm curious, if you had a conversation with them and you had to just tell them one thing, what would that one thing be?
My one thing would be to ask them, rather than tapping in and leaning into your potential and killing it, whatever killing it looks like for you, what's the alternative? The alternative is to carry on coasting with doing what you're doing. And if that's fine with you, then fine. But if you know you've got more to give, you've got two choices. You either just sulk and coast and carry on your nice life as it's going on right now. You never push any boundaries. Nothing bad ever really happens, but nothing amazing happens. You never feel fulfilled. Or you say, I want more. I want more. And I want more because I can do more. So I'm going to push myself. I'm going to do the work, as I mentioned earlier on. I'm going to work out what it is I like doing. What's my talent? Who are the people that can help me get there? 'Cause that's a big part of it as well. I'm amazing. I'm brilliant. But there are people around me that have helped me. You know what I mean? It wasn't all me. I've got an amazing girlfriend that reminds me what I'm good at. I've got amazing friends that are like, you're slacking, Jordan. Like, and I think I'm doing the most. I think I'm doing well. But my friends are like, you could do better there. And I'm like, okay. So it's not a one-man thing. Like, I've got good people around me that empower me, inspire me, and push me. So put yourself in those circles. But my answer to that person would be, if you know you've got more to give, the alternative is to carry on doing what you're doing right now. But why not just step it up a little bit to achieve a lot? Do you know what I mean? And make sure that when you go to bed at night, every night, you know, today I've actually had a mad day already, and I've got 2 more podcasts to do today. I've got some edits to watch through. I've got some posting on social media to do. I've got a keynote speech to write today. And I've got to find time to eat and give my girlfriend a hug. That's important. I've got to hug her every day. I've got a busy day today. But when I go to bed tonight, I will go to bed knowing I gave everything today. Did everything go well and amazing? No. But did I give everything? Do I think Jordan, Jarrett, Bryan today, everyone that I met got 100% from me? Yes. And I think that is all I think I can ask of myself. And that's what I would ask other people to ask of themselves. When you go to bed tonight, did you go to bed with 60%? Or did you go to bed at 0%? Because you've got nothing left to give. The tank's empty. And for a lot of people, that potential's there. One thing I hate is wasted potential. I hate it in football. I hate it in life. If you're a 7, here's my kind of final thing and I'll shut up. If in life you're a 7, whatever it may be, you're a 7, okay, it's forgivable that you can't give 10 because your maximum is 7. Give me 5 or 6. If your maximum is 4, give me 3. If your maximum is 9, give me 7 or 8 at least. Get somewhere near your potential. If your maximum is 9, you're giving me 3, we got a problem. We've got a problem, man. You're not trying. So whatever your potential is, try and hit that ceiling. Try and hit it. For some people, it's 4, some it's 9, some it's 2, some it's 8. Whatever it may be, I don't care what the number is, but make sure you hit that number. And that for me would be what I would tell someone who just needs to go, what's the alternative? The alternative is to coast and waste time. And you look back in 10 years and be like, raw, I'm 40 now, you know? If I'd have just, when I was 30, just tapped it up. One life. Live it.
I love it. That's the perfect place to end. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed that.
That was a pleasure. That was a pleasure.
Man.
That was so good.